everyone. I'm excited to have you here and excited for the discussions we're going to have today. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Sarah A. Maong and I will serve as your moderator for today's panel discussion. We have gathered here with our panelists that are willing to share their different insights about the topic organizational leadership, leadership skills, styles, and their impact on the organization, and instructional leadership. Joining us today are three amazing panelists. Let's welcome our first panelist, Ms. Rio Nicole Gutierrez, followed by Ms. Angel Aubrey Galanto, and lastly, Ms. Janille Jacinth Isanda Lumpines. For the rules, the other panelist should be silent to avoid any interruptions while the other panelist is speaking. And after the discussion, the panelists are authorized to ask to their fellow panelists if still they have any questions. The topic that we will going to discuss first is organizational leadership. To formally introduce to you all our first panelist, the first to give her discussion, Ms. Janille Jacinth Isanda Lumpines.
Organizational leadership. It is expected from you as a future teacher to engage yourself in continuing education to equip you with different roles away from teaching. With this, it is rightful that you will know what makes an effective leader or manager as you will become in the future. Whether you will become or not, this discussion would still be useful to you because as a teacher, we can't go away from being a leader and a manager of our own classroom. Now, organization is the process of when people gather something and form something based on the common beliefs and or goals. So, organization activate two subjects, the individual and the group. Leadership, on the other hand, is the art of process of influencing people to perform assigned tasks willingly, efficiently, and competently. Organizational leadership means everyone understands the vision of the goals of the organization and everyone has input on how they can improve and how they can contribute to the organization. This content provides us that understanding the one organization won't stand without the working force of every member of the organization. Everyone is accountable of transcending goals of the organization. Now, according to TOCAR 2020, organizational leadership is a management technique in which leaders assist in the establishment of strategic goals for the organization while motivating members of the group to complete tasks in order to support of those goals. So, the very essence of organizational leadership is the compelling vision, and to achieve those vision, the leaders must set strategic planning. One of the strategic plan is that focusing the energy of each people or each member and ensure they're all working the same vision. Thus, strategic planning shows us to guide to prioritize objectives in an institution so goals or vision are achievable. Organizational leadership comes from the top, middle, bottom of each that component must work hand in hand for the achievement of the same vision. According to Mariposa and Management Pyramid, top managers are ministers, permanent secretary, head office, directors, and provisional directors. Middle managers are deputy provincial directors, provincial district education officers, while the bottom managers are the head, deputy heads, heads of department, and teachers in charge. All in all, organizational leadership is a management approach in which leaders must set a strategic plan for the betterment or achievement of the same goals for the betterment of the organization, and at the same time, leaders must motivate every member of the group or every member of the organization to carry out responsibility and member, as well as see it that he or she functions efficiently and sufficiently for the accomplishment of the vision goals of that organization. Basically, organizational leadership comes from goals, strategy, and people. And in addition to that, the context of education schools are creating and expanding teacher roles as leaders. So educators will not see as a mere teacher since they manage and lead.
Thank you for that great discussion in regards to the organizational leadership and its importance, Ms. De Lumpinas. Let's move on to our next panelist, Ms. Rio Nicole Gutierrez.
Understanding differences. Leader versus manager. A great leader and a great manager have differences according to their responsibilities. So let me define first what is leader. So a leader is someone who holds dominant position in a given field and has an ability to influence the group of people towards achievement and objectives. So while manager is someone who is in charge of the organization and has a subordinate to report for him or her about the day-to-day operation in their company. So let's elaborate their responsibilities. A manager is to administer, or their process is transactional. They meet objectives and delegate tasks, while leaders can innovate. Their process is transactional, develop a vision, and find a way forward. So managers are work focused and the goal is to get the things done, and they are skilled at allocating work, while leaders are people focused, the goals, both people and results. So they care about what you want and what you succeed. Also, managers have subordinates, like they create circle of power and lead by authority, while leaders have followers, or they create circle of influence and lead by inspiring. So managers do things right and they enact the existing culture and maintain status, while leaders to do right things, or they shape the culture and derive integrity. In school, teachers are both leaders and manager. Even they have refused to accept leadership positions, because according to Cornerstone 2016, there are 5 important differences between a leader and a manager. First, managers manage the tasks at hand. Leaders led towards the future. And in school, the principal is managing when he or she concentrates on how everyday responsibilities are completed. However, when the principal establishes long-term objectives for the school, he or she is leading. Second, managers supervise people or tasks, or leaders can be individual contributors, and managers have subordinates. They have people working for them, or they have created powers and they lead with authority. So leaders have followers because they create influence and they lead by inspiring. Third, leaders guide people towards success and managers tell people what to do. A leader inspires and supports other people to succeed, and sometimes that involves individual tasks, and sometimes it involves letting things evolve in their own way. So next, leaders are willing to give up control. Managers set directions for everything, and lastly, leaders care about the people. So managers care about the numbers, and a manager bark at a slow-moving worker to pick up the place, but an empathetic leader will ask if there is a problem and offer a solution. So both leaders and managers may end up firing an employee who can pull it together, but a leader will try to resolve the issue first.
You discussed the difference between a leader and a manager well, Ms. Gutierrez. Thank you for that. Now let's hear the discussion of our last panelist, Ms. Angel Aubrey Galanto.
A school is a unique sort of organization. It is made up of individuals that have specific goals in mind, just like any other organization. Departments and sub-departments are formed, and activities are organized in a specified order. The authority in the school is established through this arrangement. The existence of the school leadership binds all of the departments and sub-departments together. The head of school, deputy head, teacher in charge, head of department, or teacher in the classroom are all examples of school leadership. Regardless of the size of the school leadership team, the head of each school is responsible to the authorities and the community for the school's daily operations. Any head teacher and their school will benefit from developing a firm understanding of leadership and investing time in learning how to practice it effectively. When school leaders formulate the school's vision, mission, and goals, including the school improvement plan, they become leaders, or SIP. They become managers, however, when they ensure that these plans are implemented on time, that resources are available, and that qualified and available personnel are available to do the work. Therefore, school heads must be both leaders and managers. Many school leaders separate the two jobs and are unaware of how they are connected. According to Dr. Alvi, a former principal and professor in Eastern Washington University School of Education, principals are in charge of both leadership and management. Many leaders perceive managerial responsibilities as being at lower level of rank because they have little to do with the vision, mission, culture building, or instructional oversight. However, management and leadership work hand in hand. Many of that job's culture building and culture shaping parts are performed by combining the two. Only great leadership can ensure that a school's performance and effect are long-term sustainable.
Thank you, Ms. Gilanto, for sharing your knowledge about this topic. Now let's move on to our question and answer portion. The panelists may now ask questions they have in mind for them to be enlightened. Panelists, you may now take your questions.
So here's a question I'd like to ask you, Miss Angel. Why is good organizational leadership in education is important?
Thank you for that, Ms. Isan. This is very important because good school leadership fosters both a good and inspiring culture for teachers and a high-quality learning experience for students. School leaders at all levels can help by acquiring the key abilities required of school leaders. And at every level of the organization, leadership is required to assess how present processes might be improved or adjusted to suit future needs. School leaders' role are leading, managing, and inspiring others to reach their full potential. It's about taking responsibility, motivating others, and establishing an organizational vision. Without good leadership, an organization will be a complete disaster because there is rarely a sense of purpose and direction, values, and a positive attitude, drive and perseverance, productivity and performance without leadership. It is leadership that brings it all that. As a result, the place where we work is a significant part of our lives, full of meaning, progress, and satisfaction, and where people achieve their aspirations in accordance with the company's mission. A holding place for socialization and collective self-realization.
Thank you, Miss Angel, for answering my question.
Now let's move on to address the topic on leadership skills, styles, and their impact on the organization. Let's have the first panelist, Ms. Delumpinas, to state her views.
Leaders' contribution to the organization and how they attain leadership positions tend to shape and how they become leaders. So when we hear the word leadership, it has something to do with responsibilities of our own actions as well as the actions of others. A leader should act with conviction, encourage strategic thinking, innovation, and action, and have the quality that is objective, fair, and reasonable. Leadership skills are the abilities people have to lead projects, encourage initiatives, drive change, and inspire others towards achievement of a specific goals. When you become leaders, you must be qualified, or it must be necessary to have your credentials or certification for a certain position. Another is you must be merited, or a kind of leader that have enthusiastic participation and a competent performance. Merited leaders are also considered to have paid their dues, including the other three categories which are captured or campaigning for a position, identified or they possess professional qualities that are recognized as beneficial. Another is that defaulted leaders are those leaders that are simply selected or volunteered because the other teams or members are unwilling or unable to accept the position. These are some categories that can be used to illustrate on how people attain leadership position. Remember that even though there are hundreds of different ways to describe a great leader, what is important is that you can contribute to the organization as an leader.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Gilanto, state your views.
Skills impose of leaders to look for useful information to convey management and the concepts can evolve. So skills demanded for leaders is somehow related to the effectiveness of a leader to communicate, handle and operate the responsibilities and to have a flexible plan and solve problems. According to Prieto et al. 2019, there are three broad types of leader skills, and these are the technical skill, human skill, and conceptual skill. Performing any job requires the use of multiple skill sets. As for leaders, it is necessary to require skills related to physical or digital tools, which are often called technical skills. They have qualities acquired by using and gaining expertise in performing physical or digital tasks. A technical skill for a leader might include a working understanding of a piece of equipment, for example, the ability to coach your members on its operation as well communicate to people basic functions of the machinery. Therefore, successful leaders in a organization must learn to use the technological assets at their disposal, collecting critical information and data to communicate upward for strategic planning. On the other hand, interpersonal or human skill is also known as people skill or soft skills. Leading people represents a central component of human skills. Team leaders who are admired and loyally followed are those who show concern for the team members as individuals with real needs and who place their team above their own personal agendas, because a good leader appeals to the human side of employees to generate creativity and motivation. Realistically, most organizations need leaders who can view their teams analytically and objectively, evaluating inefficiencies and making unpopular choices, therefore creating a healthy environment conducive to development, criticism, and higher degrees of achievement simply requires strong human skills, particularly in the realm of communication. Next one is the conceptual skill or the ability to think in terms of models, frameworks, and broad relationships such as long-range plans. According to Robert Katz, conceptual skills tend to be most relevant in upper-level thinking and broad strategic situations as opposed to lower-level and line management. As a result, conceptual skills are often viewed as critical success factors of leadership. Conceptual skill generally be considered as the ability to formulate ideas or mental abstractions in the mind, utilizing a combination of creative intuitions and a comprehensive understanding of a given context. That's why conceptual skill are important in empowering leaders in all levels of an organization to observe the operations of an organization and frame them conceptually as an aspect of that organization's strategy, objectives, and policies. Overall, leaders should establish a steady flow of communication between themselves and their team members and could deal with ideas and people, gathering useful information to convey upper management so that the concepts can evolve, also collecting the results of these skills to represent a feedback loop. I believe that leaders should be an active listener, show discipline, active, always open to new ideas.
Thank you for sharing your views. Now it's your turn, Ms. Gutierrez.
Leadership styles and beliefs. The topic evolving in leadership and styles where each co-panelists give their viewpoint in the leader's responsibilities, skills, and demands. So, but how about when we talk leadership styles? How can we manage or influence others to follow it? So, defined by the Oxford English Dictionary, leadership is the action of leading a group of people or an organization or the ability to do this. Leadership styles refer to the descriptions or classifications of the main behaviors that are displayed by leaders. So leaders have some form of power by which they can persuade or convince others to achieve the same goal or adopt the same focus or belief. According to Prito et al. 2019, these are the different leadership styles. Autocratic leaders' style is do as I say. They make all the decisions with little input from team members. This command and control approach is typical of leadership style in the past. However, it is not acceptable in today's talent. But you might also use an autocratic leadership style when crucial decisions need to be made as a matter of urgency and there's no time to wait. So also, in an autocratic environment, autocratic leaders make decisions quickly and confidently, which makes them excellent assets in a crisis. Next is the consultative leaders. They allow the participation of the members of the organization by consulting them but make the decision themselves. This happens during consultation meetings. However, even with the consultations, decisions are still made by leaders. Ultimately, this style is all about encouraging harmony and forming collaborative relationships within teams. Next is the democratic leadership. It is the most participative leadership style because leaders allow their members to fully participate in decision making and wherein the consensus of the group is considered as the final decision. So democratic leadership style is all for one and one for all because collaboration creates strong solutions for complex issues. Next is the laissez-faire leadership style. It is a kind of leadership style that is an opposite end of the spectrum from autocratic. The environment of this kind of leadership style is let you do, or which is also the literal translation from French. In other words, leaders avoid the responsibility and leave the members of the organization to establish their own works, which I think these tend sometimes lack of control over their teams. So an effective leadership style is not one size fits all. Good leaders adapt their styles to the different circumstances, people, and situations. So management writers and theorists call this situational leadership. Situational leadership incorporates many different skills, or the leadership style you choose depends on the circumstances, your organizational environment, employee competencies and commitment, and your own characteristics.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. So as you notice, different work situations call for different leadership styles, and the appropriate style will be the one you match with circumstances and people. Developing as a leader means being able to identify what type of leadership is needed, using the strategy that's likely to work best, and being flexible enough to change your style if needed. I believe that communication and feedback are important because teams need to hear feedback if they're to learn and grow. And positive feedback helps employees to recognize when they're on the right track. Don't forget to think about what you might need to change about yourself or your team to achieve one of these styles, and what skills you need to acquire to approach management in a new way. Panelists, you can now ask the other panelists if you have questions.
What is the importance of understanding different leadership styles? Can't we just apply it anytime?
No, you can't just use it anytime whenever you want because you should know first what the different styles listed above, their strengths and weaknesses, when they are most effective, and what your own natural leadership style is.
We now proceed to the last topic of our panel discussion. In the previous lesson, you learned about teacher leadership. In this topic, it introduces you to what instructional leadership is all about, including the practices aligned with school-based management, school improvement plans, and working with school stakeholders, which is called Brigada Escuela. For our first panelist, which will share with us all her knowledge and understanding about instructional leadership, Ms. Angel Galanto, take the floor, please.
Instructional leadership is a model of school leadership in which the principal works alongside teachers to provide support and guidance in establishing best practices in teaching. Principals employing this model of leadership communicate with their staff and together set clear goals related to student achievement. There are three major points in instructional leadership. The three major points are the personal traits or characteristics possessed by an instructional leader, professional development, and principal-teacher relations. It is not a great job to merely become a principal. Of greater importance is having leadership qualities. Most significant among those appears to be the attitude of the principal. It should be democratic instead of authoritative, since a democratic, enabling, participatory attitude contributes to creating an environment conducive to a better teaching and learning process, and that's according to Abdullah and Kasim in 2011. Relation-oriented behavior and task-oriented behavior are thus found to be mutually related, and both lead to much higher degree of effectiveness in terms of leadership determinants in dealing with existing problems and planning for the future. Leaders are role models for their followers. A teacher leaving school without prior permission or arriving late has become a bad model. Although private school principals receive a lower wage than the government school principal, they do much work. If a principal possesses sound knowledge and skills, he or she may be able to effectively work for the betterment of the organization and the welfare of the students. They will also contribute to wider society. Instructional leadership skills are the traits possessed by effective educational leaders to inspire action and optimism. These leaders set an example for others by treating people fairly and making an impression with their honesty and integrity. Effective leaders are supportive of those around them and inspire them to achieve individuals and collective goals. Their excellent communication skills to gather feedback, ask for ideas, and make informed decisions regarding the processes of the educational institutions they run. Instructional leadership is most commonly associated with school principals who manage curriculums, budgeting, and scheduling, and are responsible for the success of each student in their schools. These individuals often strive to empower teachers to become leaders teachers themselves, distributing the weight of the school's responsibilities more equitably and providing a model of teamwork for students to look up to. This method of education leadership became popular in the 80s and 90s and continues to evolve based on societal and educational needs.
That was very detailed information you got there, Ms. Galanto. And now Ms. Gutierrez will have the topic School-Based Management System.
School-based management system or SBM is a strategy to improve education by transferring significant decision-making authority from the central office to individual schools. SBM provides principals, teachers, students, and parents greater control over the education process by giving them responsibility for decisions about the budget, personnel, and curriculum. So through the involvement of teachers, parents, and other community stakeholders in these key decisions, SBM can create more effective learning environments for children. So the school-based management portal has 4 different components. First is leadership and governance, or a network of leadership that provides the vision and direction to the education system, making it relevant and responsive to the context of diverse communities. So next is the curriculum and instruction. So the learning system collaboratively develop and continuously improve, anchored in the community and learners' context and inspirations. Next is the accountability and continuous improvement. So a clear, transparent, inclusive, and responsive accountability system is in place, collaboratively developed by community stakeholders, which monitors expected and actual performance, continually addresses the gaps, and ensures a venue for feedback and redress. Next is the management of resources. Resources are collectively mobilized and managed with transparency, effectiveness, and efficiency. So my question is, how would they support the Brigada Eskwela? Mine is the provincial government units, and they coordinate with DepEd division offices, where they secure a copy of the school preparedness checklist and convene the local school board or LSB to identify possible support in school preparedness.
Putting different components in your discussion was a great idea, Ms. Gutierrez. Now, Ms. Dalumpinas will be discussing both SIP and Brigada Eskwela.
IP stands for School Improvement Plan, is a roadmap that establishes the changes that the school needs to improve student achievement and shows how and when these changes will be made. It is also a 3-year education development plan that embodies the vision and mission of the school. It contains the profile of the school and the community, the problem, needs, goals, objectives, standards, target, implementation plan, monitoring, evaluation plan, communication and advocacy plan, documentation, and reporting to stakeholders and signatories. It is translated into an annual implementation plan. These SIPs serve as the major basis of the Division Education Development Plan. Brigada Eskwela. I will proceed to the next topic, working with the school stakeholder, which we call Brigada Eskwela. Brigada Eskwela, also known as Bayanihan para sa Paaralan, Working Together for Schools, is a nationwide initiative by the Department of Education wherein stakeholders are encouraged and empowered to take part in helping prepare schools for opening classes.
I think Ms. Dalumpinas didn't discuss well her take on Brigada Eskwela. I would like to ask, why did they conduct that?
Yes po, thank you, Ms. Sarah. The occurrence of disaster affected school operations to the point of depriving our students of access to quality education. While we have improved our classroom standards, strengthened our coordination with partners for disaster response and capacity building, and established the disaster risk reduction management service, there is need to heighten support for the school level implementation of disaster risk reduction. Disaster preparedness of schools is an important factor to achieve resilience in our communities. DepEd through 2018 Brigada Eskwela seeks to mainstream disaster preparedness principle in readying schools for the opening classes. More than the usual menu of the provisions for schools, such as putting up fences, painting, roofing, among others, DepEd will provide a list preparedness measure that partners could support in various capacities.
Working with school stakeholders, by the word stakeholders, who are included in that?
So, we aim to engage all education stakeholders, which would include local government units, or LGUs, from provincial to barangay levels, private partners, civil society organization, private corporations, individual volunteers.
So, evolutionary leadership is the capacity to empower oneself and others to affect social change in order to build a just and sustainable world. Teacher leadership is the process by which teachers influence members of the academic communities where they belong to improve educational practices with the aim to improve student learning and achievement. Okay, that was a smooth discussion we got there. Thank you to our panelists. I wish we had more time to discuss and explore more of our topics, but it's sad to say that we don't have enough time. Nevertheless, what a great exchange of views. I hope that the audience learned from this. Thank you for listening to our discussions. I really appreciate your effort to watch it. Have a great day and stay safe, everyone.